All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Daddy Show. As you can see, I have a homemade pop filter on my microphone. Do what you gotta do. And I'm going to do a review of the Feiyutech G5 Gimbal that has worked very well for me. I've had it, I think, about a year, and it's done wonders for me. As you can see, I'm a little shaky right now. I'm not using it currently. I want to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like before the gimbal and then after, and kind of get some footage both with and without. So this is without the gimbal, obviously, and I will be showing you how it came to me, basically. Obviously not in the packaging. Didn't do an unpackaging review here. I'm just doing a review after using it for quite a while. So let's get right into it. The Feiyutech came with this carrying case. It's a nice, beautiful case here, foam padded. It's very nice, and came with this extension. You twist, pull, twist, and pull, and it gets pretty long. Very, very comfortable. And once attached to the gimbal with the camera on there, it's super comfortable to use. So, and I'll get right into opening this up here. Pull the gimbal out, and immediately you can see that the weights are trying to balance themselves here. All right, so it's got this wonderful, beautiful toggle switch button here. You can go left and right, up and down, and that's to actually help make small, minute adjustments with the camera, left, right, up, and down. And that's from any mode. And then you have your on switch and your selfie switch. So if you have your camera set to where you are shooting ahead of you, but you want to do a quick spin it around and do a quick speech into it in selfie mode and then have it spin back around again, you hold the button. As long as you hold the button, it spins around to you, and then when you let go, it spins back away from you again. So that's this bottom button here, and it's called a splash proof G5. I have not used it much in water, but it does have a beautiful rubber cover here for the charging port, and it has an 8-hour battery life, and I've only had to charge this thing 3 or 4 times the whole time I've had it. I don't use it every single day, but I really haven't had to charge it that much. And these motors that are in here that work the actual stability part of the whole gimbal are amazing. They make minute adjustments. You can see a huge difference in video. So I'll get into that here, and I'll get to attaching the GoPro to the gimbal, show you what it looks like from that point of view, as well as I'll use another camera here to give you a shot to look at what it really looks like with the whole setup working. So we'll get into that. So far, so good.
What do you get when you gobble down treats? Eating as much as an elephant eats.
Don't ask, I don't know. That's the Daddy Show, being silly. Okay, now on the other camera, let's match them up. Okay. Now, here is the GoPro on the gimbal. As you can see, the screen is still on the GoPro. So what I'm going to do is just turn it on here. Hold this until it wakes itself up. Bam. It is now stabilizing itself. And it's got different modes here. It has the one blinking light, stabilizes it, basically stabilizes it up and down. So you can turn left and right, and it will turn left and right with you. So you can see I'm turning the base, and the top turns as well. Now if I push the button, the power button also works as your mode button. So I push that once, it goes to a solid blue light. And now when I turn left or right, the camera is not turning. When I move down, up, side to side, the camera is trying to hold itself in the same position, which is pretty phenomenal. It's pretty amazing. Does an incredible job at doing this. This Feiyutech is just phenomenal for that. And then if you click it twice, get a double flashing blue light. That basically means it's going to follow wherever you go. So you aim down, it's going to aim down. You aim up, it will turn itself up, left, right. Pretty neat. And then it has a selfie mode. Click it 3 times and it spins itself around. What I have realized on this is that whatever mode you had it in before, so let's say I had it in the 2-click, so it's going to follow wherever I move. Sorry, I'm moving this thing all over the place on you here. It's going to follow wherever I move, but if I have it to where I had it lean down a little bit, let's say I was looking down at the ground, filming there, and then I suddenly hit it into selfie mode, the camera itself is going to stay aimed slightly down. And vice versa, if you have it aimed slightly up and you turn it around to selfie mode, it will maintain itself in a upward position. So something to remember, it doesn't recenter itself when you go into selfie mode. So sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes you end up having to make some adjustments. So just something to think about. I don't know if that's really a flaw or anything like that, or if I'd give it any negative remarks or reviews for that, because everything else about this is just phenomenal. And as you can see, as I undo this and extend it out, except for me hitting the table, it's actually pretty silent. And I can turn the stick and the camera turns with it. And as I move up and down, the camera does its best to stay steady. And as I turn around, as I turn left and right, it slowly brings itself back to be pointed at me. So that's pretty awesome. I think it does take it a second. And when I watched reviews on this and the reviews that I saw, the majority of all the reviews had great things to say about this gimbal. And they're actually the reason that I bought this gimbal. There's a few others out on the market at the time. Don't remember the names of any of them, just because I went with this one. Now, that being said, a lot of people were giving negative reviews on this because it is slow to turn. And if you just watch the gimbal itself as it's turning, it does feel slow. It does look slow. However, when you watch video of spinning around with and without the gimbal, that slow motion that the gimbal does to correct for super fast blurred motion makes a huge difference, and it's very, very noticeable. So I think Feiyutech did a wonderful job compensating for that, trying to keep motion blur out as much as possible. Obviously, you can turn super fast and override that, and then it has to catch up, and you do get some motion blur. But if you just turn at a nice pace, it will keep up with you. So I think it's a wonderful job. I think they did a great job. Heard other reviews saying that they can hear motor noise in their GoPro in the audio, and I have yet to notice that. And I've had this thing in quite a few different situations. Not once have I heard any noise. I've even cranked the volume output way up when listening to the audio and watching the video over again, and I have yet to hear any motor noise. So very silent, very smooth, and wonderful. I think it's been about a year that I've had this thing, and it's just been a great performing gimbal the entire time. And so I've actually got better things to say about it than the GoPro itself. It's actually had more issues than the Feiyutech. So, and like I said, the charging port on the side is incredible. It's nice and covered up, so it truly is splash proof or splash resistant, and just a quality product. It's got some good weight to it. It's not super heavy, so it's not heavy in your hand, but it's got good balanced weight that makes it comfortable to actually use, and especially once you get used to it. And I have found that once I got used to using the actual selfie stick, the extension on here, I've found that it's actually uncomfortable for me to use just the gimbal itself without the selfie stick, because I like that extra extension. I like the extra height on the stick here, and I feel like it puts it a decent distance away, number one, and number two, it just makes it more comfortable for me to hold. And as you can see, I'm bouncing around quite a bit with my hand on the table here, but it'll be amazing to see how, for me, you won't notice because you're watching right now, but amazing to see the difference between what I'm seeing with this thing bouncing around versus what you're seeing. So that said, here's my other camera, and as you can see all the motion from both my hands being unsteady, but you can see how much that GoPro is bouncing in this video, on the cell phone video. And it'll be interesting to see the two side by side. I might even put them side by side just to show the difference between how much it's bouncing in my hands versus how much it looks like it's bouncing on the video. So, you know, I'd love to go on and on about this thing, and I'd love to give some really long, drawn-out review and just go over this thing inside and out. But really, there's not a whole lot to say. I mean, it's super simple. It's got the 3 different modes. If you click it 4 times, the mode button, it will recenter itself. So if you hold the selfie stick and hold everything back up to where you want it zeroed, and if you have it in selfie mode, you do need to take it out of selfie mode. So you got to click the mode button 3 times, have the camera spin around, and then once it's done that, then you can stand it upright, hold it at where you think 0 is as far as where your hands would be, or how you'd be holding the stick basically. And then click it 4 times and the whole thing will recenter itself. So it's pretty cool. I'll actually show you that process right now, and we'll go through that. So, whoa, bear with me. All right, so now I've got it here. I'm going to click 3 times to spin it around. It spins itself around. Now, if you notice, the camera is still facing down slightly. So the way you fix that, click it 4 times, and then bam, it automatically brings itself back to 0. Now there is a centering function, so if you have a different camera other than a GoPro, or this thing's lost its centering, or something goofy's happened, and that actually did happen to me one time where I had to recalibrate. But the first time you get the camera hooked up to it, you do need to calibrate it. And once it's calibrated, like I said, I've only recalibrated it one time because I screwed up in how I was holding it and made the gimbal do something it didn't like. And in correcting, it actually flipped itself over the opposite direction, where see how the motor is on the camera's left side. It actually had flipped it over to where the motor was on the camera's right side, and the camera was actually upside down. And you can actually set it up that way. So that's another beautiful thing about this gimbal, is you do not have to have the camera on this right side. You can have the camera on the left side. You just have to calibrate it to have that motor, this motor right here, over on this side when you calibrate it. And it will keep the screen then on this side, so you can see what you're looking at however you want it. So I prefer the camera on the right side over here. It's just the way I started using it, and it's just what's really worked for me and what I'm used to. So obviously I could do it the other way, but this is what I like, this is what I'm used to. So as you can see, it's perfectly sized for the GoPro Hero series. It holds it very well, and so any of the other competitors for GoPro that are the same size camera would do incredibly well inside this thing. It does give a little bit of extra room in the length of these screws for a little bit wider camera. So, and actually a slightly taller, you can see that channel underneath where the screw goes through. There's a little bit of a channel in there, and that gives you a little bit more room for a slightly taller camera. So, all in all, I've got to say that this gimbal is quite impressive. So I'm very impressed with it. I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like when you're using the up, down, left, right functions. So this is me pushing down, and then this is me pushing back up, left, and right. And then if I want to recenter everything because I've gotten it off, flip it back around, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, it recentered itself. So that's really handy if you end up in a situation where you've moved it manually a little bit. You're like, oh man, how do I get it back to where I had it before, and I want it centered again? So you just click it 4 times, and bam, it brings itself back. So that is a really, really fantastic feature. Show that again here, because I wasn't recording with the cell phone, and now I am. So if you get it like this, get it off a little bit, all you have to do is 4 times, and it brings itself back. So very cool, very impressive. And so this has gone on way too long. I'm gonna have to cut this thing down quite a bit, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you have gotten something out of this. And yeah, as you can see, I can get quite a ways away here, get a pretty good view of everything. Probably a bunch of junk in the background, but this thing's pretty neat. So that's without my arm stretched out. So one thing I did want to be sure to mention here is that I have another selfie stick that I was using before, and it was a more of a friction type selfie stick. I'm not sure even what to call it, but where it uses different size tapered pieces inside of each other, and it just kind of stretches out. Well, you could really hear that in the video, but I've noticed this thing, if I don't move much, you almost really can't even tell that I'm even doing it. Now if I pop it, I'm sure you can hear that in both in my microphone but also in the camera, but otherwise it's pretty silent, pretty quiet. So that's another beautiful thing about this. So if you're thinking about the Feiyutech G5 Gimbal, I would very highly recommend it. So I will leave a link in the description for you to go check out and take a look at the gimbal yourself and see if it's something that you would like. Go out and check other reviews, see what other people have to say about it, and don't just take my word for it. But if you do want to take a look at it, I will give you a link in the description, and wish the best of luck. Hope it works out for you. So thanks for watching. This was hopefully a helpful quick overview, and hopefully that helps out. So thanks again for watching.